where I grew up changed a lot. Portland, Oregon, I think you even know this, has become a very hip place to go. There's a lot of people there complaining about the people that used to be there, that used to be part of the culture of town, are pushed out. It has a really interesting and very different zoning rules in Portland. The idea was, I believe in the early 70s when they passed this, was to make sure that no neighborhood got left behind and became ghettoized. One of the things I hadn't really thought about until recently was ghetto means poor people. Ghetto it instantly means bad thing. But at some level, if you don't make room for poorer neighborhoods, does that also mean you kick everybody out of a city that isn't sort of a monoculture, right? Like everybody has to be sort of a mid-level manager, a lawyer, a doctor, or above in order to live there. If you're gentrifying a neighborhood so much that the people that do most of the work in that neighborhood can't afford to live anywhere near it, that has a whole lot less to do with black and white or brown and white than it does to do with rich and poor.
And I like to always remind people that Martin Luther King was assassinated after he started talking about poverty rights and not just racial civil rights. The moment he started changing the conversation, they want to always talk about the "I have a dream" speech and across racial lines, but they forget he was engendering the ire of a lot of people when he started wanting to tip the scales of redistribution of wealth and having those kind of conversations, which his life was then clipped. And there's no, when people have to face the fact that they have to redistribute wealth, it turns the entire dichotomy of this country on its head. This country was built on the haves keeping the have-nots down to keep producing for the haves. And that's just the way this place was. And that's the way colonialism and imperialism are, and that's happened across racial lines too. The Moors did it to the Europeans, then the Europeans did it back to the Africans, then it happens across everybody does it to everybody. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what we have to all remember is that we have to start valuing things a lot differently. We have to start being a lot more responsible, and we have to stop consumerism. There's going to be a huge cross-section of people that have been in power for generations that will now not be in power. And that's scary to a lot of people that have power right now.
Mm-hmm. Change is tough. I mean, just today, Seth Godin had a interesting little blog post about habit. Yeah. We are creatures of habit because you don't have to think. You just go from thing to thing to thing, and nothing's scary and nothing's challenging. Now, for me personally, that sounds like the living manifestation of hell. If things aren't changing and I'm not learning and somebody isn't challenging me and I'm not thinking hard, I'm bored out of my skull. But I have time. I think a lot of busy people, especially parents, have it the worst. And I don't care if they're rich or poor.
Right.
If you're in a place in life where there's other people that are always demanding your attention and you feel guilty if you're not connected with them, then where is your space to think? And to your point, like plan 5 years out or 10 years out, or decide the effect you want to make in the world or the effect you are going to allow the world to have on you. If you don't have the training to think and think critically and have the financial means to have the space and time to think, how is anybody supposed to come up with a different way to be in a consumerist society? Because you're right, and a lot of people will say, we can't go on like this, and then the conversation stops because nobody's thought, what does that different world look like?